Like I said, you don't need to use a Subversion root at all, but it makes sense for organization and ease of administration. You can create a repository anywhere, though. I mean, that's just a file system command. Okay. So the Subversion command line, like I said, just like CVS, it uses a CVS, it uses a Subversion binary, which then has subcommands. So all the commands take the form of SVN something, possibly options, possibly arguments. Unlike CVS, there's no distinguishing between global and local options, which I think is great because that stuff was a good place to trip yourself up, especially since some of the global options and local options actually collided. So -F might mean something different, which is, I think, terrible design. But I wasn't consulted in the design process of CVS, which is shocking, I know, but they never consult me about anything, and I have all the answers. What the hell? So common options, -- force. This was -F in CVS, but I think they wanted you to really mean it, so you want to type a lot. -Q means shut up. -V means tell me everything. -R, revision, means operate only on this revision, and you can use the colon, second revision, for a range. Looks like a array slice in Ruby or Perl or Python or etc. Java, who knows. Targets, I've never used this, but you can put a bunch of arguments in a file. I guess this makes sense if you're doing operations on lots of files or directories and you want to suck it in from an external file. Whatever, I've never used it. Okay, -N. This is really important, the -N. Subversion by default is recursive. CVS by default, in most cases, is not, except when it is. So, you know. So typically in Subversion, unless you say do not be recursive, it's going to do everything. Now, the most useful thing is when you do an SVN add of a directory, it adds all the files in that directory and all the subdirectories. CVS, no, not so much. You gotta add them. Yeah, it's terrible. So, you know, that leads to the writing of shell scripts, and that's no good. The most useful Subversion command, I think, is help. And it works. You can say SVN help any Subversion subcommand, and it will give you all the options. So, like SVN help copy, for example, SVN help commit. So to create a repository, I say, you know, create an SVN root first, indicator, whatever, and I'm just making it in my own directory. Choose a data store, and as of Subversion 1.1, thank God they've given you an alternative to BerkeleyDB. I hate BerkeleyDB, I always have. I don't understand. I mean, some people, you know, it's wonderful, whatever. Well, it's crufty, it breaks all the time, it's a pain in the ass to administer. What's so wonderful about it? And Subversion really proves this, because when I upgraded from 1.0 to 1.1, using the BerkeleyDB, it seemed like every third commit would actually wedge the BerkeleyDB, and I had to recover it. So, I don't know, whatever. So, you also have this wonderful FS file store. And I say, please use FS. Now, the difference, they go into, there's like seriously a 5-page discussion of the differences between BerkeleyDB and FSFS. And then what it boils down to is BerkeleyDB is faster, except when FSFS is faster, and vice versa. So, really, performance-wise, I have not noticed a penalty to using FSFS. And the wonderful thing about FSFS is you can have it on a remote file system, so NFS. Put a BerkeleyDB on NFS and you're begging for trouble. You're saying, please, ruin my life, please. SVN admin. Now, unfortunately, for the sake of this presentation, I did everything local, which is in retrospect probably not that smart, because now you don't know which commands run on the server and which, so I'll tell you. Everything on this page is the server. Okay. To create a repository on the server, you run SVN admin create and give it a path under your SVN root, again optional. And then this is the name of the repository. Now, you can't you can't give it subdirectories down in the repository or anything like that. Think of the repository as a database. I mean, you're creating a database, whether it's a Berkeley DB file, cluster, fuck, was that out loud? Or whether it's an FSFS, ideally, it is a database. You should treat it as a black box. Unlike CVS, you can't just poke around in there and move things around and expect no trouble, because Subversion will hate you. And then Berkeley DB, just use create, and it's the default. But please don't do that. If you do not post to TLUG and expect me to help you. I will slack, and I will say, you bastard, you should listen to me. Why not Berkeley DB? Okay. I think I've covered this. I hate it. It causes my hair to fall out. I don't like it at all. Okay, projects and repositories. All right, and I've talked about this before, but repositories revision numbers are repository-wide. Repository-wide. So if you keep, in CVS, you keep a bunch of projects in the same repository. Sure, why not? I mean, we all do. In Subversion, do not do this. You should, project should equal repository in your head. Project repository. Why? Okay. If I have 3 different open source projects in the same repository and I make a commit to one of them, the revision number for all of them go up because they're in the same repository. Not what you mean most of the time. I mean, I guess this could make sense if there's a very close relationship between separate projects, but in that case, why are they separate projects? So, anyway, it's my philosophy. Use a separate repository for each project. If you don't ask for help, etc. You know the song and dance. Okay, importing a new project. For you CVS people, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Sorry. Did anybody?
What if you have, let's say, like common libraries of subroutines or subfunctions?
Then you're doomed. You fool. No, go on. I'm standing up. I might as well be funny, right? Sorry, go on. I'm sorry.
So, should I, from this common library, then I'm creating like 3 or 4 different applications out of it.
Yeah.
Right? So, create the library as one project?
Or
put everything under?
I would say, if it's a library, it should, and you kind of said it yourself, you're using it for 3 different applications. So in my opinion, that's a standalone project. You know, the library itself, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I guess there is the argument that when the library revision changes, it could affect the API, but, you know, I don't think it's worth having common revision numbers. I think that's confusing. That'll confuse a lot of people. But, yeah, so, if you have questions, interrupt me because I might not see hands because I don't look at the audience enough. Which some of you might appreciate. Okay, so importing a new project. As in CVS, this is the first step. What this means, this is not the same as creating the repository, but it's very close. Okay, on the Subversion server, you run the SVN admin create command to create the repository. Now, on the client, and again, I'm sorry for doing it this way, on the client, create this project skeleton. Now, if you read the Subversion documentation, they tell you to do it like this. They tell you when you have a project, create 3 top-level subdirectories: branches, tags, and trunk. Why? You'll see. But everybody does it this way, and this is a good way of doing it. So please just do this always. I mean, just copy and paste my stuff.
Is there a reason why they just didn't make that into the command?
And, you know, it's not the Unix way, forcing a certain way of doing things.
That's how you need it to work, so...
The Unix way is knowing that you must do things a certain way, but not forcing anyone to do it.
And it just won't work if you don't do it that way.
You just get really pissed off when people don't know the right way to do things. Sorry.
About the management position.
You're right. It is. And I'm being a little cheeky, but you're absolutely right. But please do it like this, because if you don't, a lot of the Subversion documentation won't make a whole lot of sense to you. Okay, so once you have blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow, I did something stupid and wrong. No, I didn't. I was right. Okay. Create the